So it's good to be here. A couple of months ago, a colleague and I, both clergy who work in outer estates context, were encouraged by the Archdeacon to seek some funding from the Diocesan Strategic Development Fund pot for some new ministry on our estates. We were both planning to start new prayerful gatherings, one on each estate, just turning up, inviting people to pray, chat about God, us getting to know new people, and you never know, to encourage them to see themselves as loved by God. Parish ministry, in other words. Anyway, our diocese is quite good at getting SDF money, and if there's money available to fund something we wanted to do anyway, why not ask for some? And therein started a process of producing a proposal. Now, I have some experience of such things. I used to work in the arts. I spent a lot of time applying for grants. I've done the same as a priest. I understand the need to articulate the aim of the activity, the thing you want to change, and the objective, what you're actually going to do. I know that funders need some sense of how you'll know you've changed anything through the activity. So you describe output, stuff you can count, numbers of sessions, hours of activity, numbers of people even, and outcomes, the things you observe changing. And of course, you provide a budget. So stupidly, I thought, I've got this. More fool me. I produced the proposal. It went back and forth, back and forth. My colleague said we should just give up. But we had heard the diocesan team definitely wanted to give us the money, which was lucky because we'd started anyway. But then I was asked for a risk assessment. This new activity isn't actually happening in church. It's taking place in the community centre. It's a very low-key cafe church type thing. So was I being asked for a risk assessment of the actual cafe church, food hygiene, health and safety in the venue, lone working when arriving, reducing the possibility of COVID transmission? No. I was being asked for a risk assessment that would mitigate against the risk of not delivering the outcomes. And the outcomes, new people praying with us, new people being transformed by God's love, us learning and growing through the experience of encountering Christ in a new place and in the lives of these new people. I was asked to produce a risk assessment that would mitigate against that not happening. I said some rude words, and then I found myself wondering how, as a church, we were in this place. I understand the need for risk assessments when actually we're trying to flag up some problems, dangers, risks. Part of the process of undergoing that type of risk assessment is to raise awareness and make sure that somebody takes responsibility for doing the things that help reduce the possibility of those risks having an adverse effect. We can ventilate the space to reduce the risk, mitigate the risk of airborne transmission of COVID, but the risk still exists. What does it mean to mitigate the risk of us not being changed by our encounters on our estate? What does it mean to mitigate against the risk of people not praying? And of course, anyone who has done any estates ministry knows that there's a risk that people might not come. However great your advertising, however good the relationships you build, person X won't come if they know person Y is coming, and person Y won't come if their mate isn't coming and their mate has run out of electric and is currently sleeping on her mum's sofa. It's just risky. Apart from the impractical nature of the request, it felt deeply uncomfortable. It felt anxious and it felt fearful. We are afraid you might fail. Persuade us you won't fail. Give us confidence in your abilities to convert all the people, which I don't ever do, by the way, that's God's job. Is this indicative of the anxious nature of our diocese, of the Church of England, of the church commissioners, or actually of our colleagues, of each other. I want to argue that small churches understand risk and they understand how to do failure. I don't think we're afraid of it. Sometimes it makes us sad. We try things, no one turns up. We seek volunteers, no one puts their hand up. But we also know that nothing is wasted, that the tea and toast banner that was outside the school for a year didn't really start up a new drop-in thing for parents. But the number of parents who brought children to Messy Church from that school was way higher than from the other school. And prayers are prayers, whether it's just me praying them during Baby Loss Awareness Week, or whether there are others that join me, the prayers are prayed. Anything we offer, anything we hope for and try, it's all held by God, redeemed by God, known and blessed by God. It's never unmitigated disaster, but it doesn't quite look like unmitigated success either. It doesn't attract 800 people. It mostly fails to make a dent in the C of E attendance figure decline. We recognise as small churches that more often than not, we're engaged in what might be called a losing battle. Pondering all of this, I remembered a quote that an outgoing, I think the fact he was an outgoing residentiary canon is significant, an outgoing residentiary canon, a quote that he read during one of his final sermons at the cathedral. It was the Chrism Eucharist. It's a Rabbi Jonathan Sacks quote from his book, Future Tense. And it goes like this. Someone came up to me and said, "I appreciate your words, but don't you think you're fighting a losing battle?" It was a good question. What I replied was this: yes, the Jewish fight is a losing battle. It always was. Moses lost, Joshua lost, Jeremiah lost. We have striven for ideals just beyond our reach, hoped for a gracious society just beyond the possible, believed in a messianic age just over the furthest horizon, wrestled with the angel and emerged limping. And in the meanwhile, those who won have disappeared, and we are still here, still young, still full of vigour, still fighting the losing battle, never accepting defeat, refusing to resign ourselves to cynicism or to give up the hope of peace with those who today, as in the past, seek our destruction. That kind of losing battle is worth fighting, more than any easy victory, any premature consolation. So I'm afraid to say I sold my soul. I wrote something that vaguely resembled a risk assessment and we got the money. I will not look at it again, but I will continue to fight the losing battle. It's worth it, more than any easy victory or premature consolation.